All right, everyone, hope none of you are shocked, but they're really reprinting Shocklands. Well, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie, and I hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. Now, you will not have a fantastic day moving forward if you own a metric ton of Shocklands, because it has just come out that Wizards of the Coast is putting Shocklands as box toppers in the Murders at Karlov Manor Clue Edition, which is just a wild thing. So we're going to get into this whole conversation, and then later tomorrow, I think we'll do a video looking at the whole Murders of Karlov Manor release, and I'll be excited because there's some really cool stuff in the Murders of Karlov Manor release. But I wanted to focus in on the Clue Edition. We don't know a ton about what exactly it is in terms of the gameplay. It seems to be some sort of mashup between Clue the game and Magic the Gathering. But we do know is that in every single Clue Edition booster box thing, there is going to be a box topper that is going to be a Shockland in a full art treatment in the style of Murders at Karlov Manor. That is wild to me because of, that wouldn't be a big deal. That would actually be a really, really cool thing, I think. It would be a really cool addition and value add to this product, a thing that would help retailers like myself sell the product to customers if it hadn't been that they are putting Shocklands in the set right before this in Ravnica Remastered. And this is just an absolute wild thing that seems to keep happening in the world of Magic the Gathering, where they are putting massive reprints, things that are, they're needed. They're needed to be reprinted in multiple sets back to back. We saw it with Doubling Season and Smothering Tithe and Cyclonic Rift with Commander Masters and the enchantment sets. We saw this a lot. We've seen this a lot in 2023, where they are putting these cards in multiple sets back to back, and they end up cannibalizing each other because the value of the cards tanks, and it doesn't, hold up the excitement for the consumer if they can't get that extra value add. The reason you put a Shockland box topper in a thing like the Clue bundle is to help sell it and add value to it. But if you've just tanked the value of your thing that you're adding to it, then it doesn't perform what it's set out to do. So I wanted to have a conversation about these things. So first off, let's get into some of the details. The Murders at Karlov Manor Clue box, from distribution side, it's a little bit more expensive than like a gift bundle. So we're talking like 10 to maybe 15% more expensive than the Ixalan gift bundles that are coming out. So I think you can expect to see from stores, your local game store, these at around $65 to $70. And then of course on Amazon, we are seeing them at $70 as well. And what they contain is like 8 booster packs, and they say that they're meant to be put together to play. So it really feels like what they're doing, it's a 2 to 4 game, and it really feels like what they're trying to do is like a Jumpstart meets Clue, and they're kind of smashing those two things together. So there is additional value inside of this. I don't know if those booster packs are going to have like full-on Magic. I think it does have full-on Magic the Gathering cards, but what I don't know is if they're like stacked decks where you're going to have like the same cards, or if they are randomized booster packs, kind of like a Jumpstart thing would be. My assumption is going to be that they are trying to create a different, world to utilize the Jumpstart mechanic, where you take two kind of pre-constructed decks and you mash them together. I think that that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a replacement for Jumpstart within the Murders of Karlov Manor set, but we don't know that exactly for sure. But the price point there is that kind of $60 to $70 price point, I think. So I want to talk first to consumers, the people who are going to be buying this product. What is it good for? Well, first off, and what should you do with the Shocklands, and what should you do with Wizards reprinting all this stuff? Well, first off, Shocklands are great cards, and you're gonna want them. No one's gonna just like dump all their Shocklands as a result of this. But I do think this proves Wizards is proving time and time again that you should not just have a stack of cards in your trade binder. If you are not actively using your Shocklands, or at this point, if you're not actively using your fetch lands, you should not be holding on to them, because Wizards is proving that when they reprint them, they are going to reprint them hard, and they will lose value. So the days of having a trade binder, the days of having cards in, in multiple decks that you're not playing anymore. Maybe you have that modern deck that has kind of faded out of the limelight, but instead of selling the cards, you're just like, oh, I'll just hold on to it and I'll wait till I start playing modern again, and then I'll use the fetch lands. I don't think that that is the right way to approach Magic the Gathering anymore, and that sucks. Man, I hate that, because I'm the type of person where I want to have my decks, and I have 35 commander decks. 35 of them, and I make my deck and I set it and I forget it. I rarely upgrade a commander deck. My lands matter deck, I upgrade quite a bit, but I rarely upgrade and go back through because I don't have the time or energy to do that with every single commander deck. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, the amount of money in those commander decks that I rarely play, right? It's crazy to see the decrease in value because of the way that they're reprinting. So I don't think that you should, as a consumer, have a bunch of decks that you're not utilizing, especially with those expensive fetch lands and Shocklands and all that stuff. I just think the way that they are reprinting right now, you should just step back from them. And trade binders, I miss the day of going into the LGS. I can't tell you the last time I saw a trade binder at my store. Like, people just don't do it. And it makes sense because Wizards is deteriorating the value of your trade binder so rapidly that why wouldn't you just trade it in or sell the cards off and get the things that you want? Now, I don't want to step away from this too much, but this is a game and people should be buying cards to play the game, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't buy Shocklands if you need Shocklands for your deck, that you shouldn't buy them because they might reprint them. I think if you are getting the value of gameplay out of the cards, I'm not sure that it really matters if they reprint things. And over time, I do think Shocklands end up going back to the $8 to $10 price point. I do think that for the next foreseeable future, we're going to see a heavy decline in the prices of Shocklands. These are not going to be the $8 to $15 staple cards that Wizards wants them to be so that they can throw them in another set to sell. This is going to hurt the value of these cards. I mean, look at Dominaria Remastered. The most expensive rares in that set are not expensive. The tutors have come down quite a bit, and this is going to fit that kind of pipeline of those tutors in Ravnica Remastered. And then on top of that, the box toppers, I think you could see like $5 to $6, maybe even less, because some of the Shocklands are already less than that. $3 to $6, $7, $8 Shocklands will not surprise me. So yeah, zero reason to hold cards for a long period of time if you're a player, if you're not using them in your decks. Now I want to talk to stores, because I've been really struggling with how to do this. As a store, we do have display cases, but we have a kiosk that most of our singles are on, and that kiosk is connected to TCG Player, right? And that's where we sell the vast majority of the cards that come in on trade are sold on TCG Player. And I would say as a store, we are probably in the top, 10% in terms of rotating through inventory. We do not, there are stores who they have lots of cards on there. I'm not saying I'm in the top 10% of stores. That came off wrong. I'm saying we rotate inventory quickly, and I would assume that most stores don't rotate it as quickly as we do because we sell stuff pretty low on TCG Player just to keep the cash flow going, to keep cards rotating. And our customers, we let them know when we get new cards in, and maybe I'll pause the online inventory for a while, but most of the customers that we sell singles to end up being online. And we do have a little display case that we have singles in. And I just recently upgraded that display case to have a playset of fetch lands, to have, commander staples. And I thought through, oh, should I put Shocklands there? And I actually decided not to. And this is the reason I think stores should not do that, because the amount of money that you lose when they come in and they reprint something like this is just insane. And so for stores, kind of what I'm doing, and this is, I guess, my recommendation, not that anybody's asking me, but I guess what I'm doing as a store, I'm going to have my kiosk and I'm going to have a couple of cards, but I'm not going to have more than 1, 2, maybe 3 if it's a play set of fetch lands or something like that. I'm not going to sit on that stuff and have an extended inventory of that. This really goes to show why I didn't do that, and what the fear that I had with doing that originally when I started the store. It kind of makes that make sense now, where when they reprint something, they really really reprint it. So display counters are good because they give people something to look at, and it's important to have cards for people to want to see and that impulse buy and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's worth the risk as a store to sit on singles inventory for more than like a couple weeks or a couple months. If those cards are not moving, I think it's really important for stores to recycle that because of the hit of, oh my gosh, they announced Shocklands are going to be in this and then that and then that, or Fetchlands are going to be in MH3 and they're going to be in every single slot. Like, it's just not worth the risk as a store to sit on inventory. But here's the kicker, and this is what I think most people get wrong in their frustration with Wizards on this stuff. The demand for Shocklands goes up. The demand for Fetchlands goes up the cheaper that the cards get, okay? This is so important to remember. Everyone says, oh my gosh, the value of the cards, whatever, it's killing stores. I don't see that is the problem, because the demand goes up when the value goes down, because more people can now afford those cards and they say, oh, I'm gonna put it in this deck or that deck or whatever. And so for stores, this is all about the speed of sale. It's all about the ability to move through singles. There is still a viable opportunity. I wouldn't avoid buying Shocklands or avoid buying Fetchlands. Maybe you avoid buying them for a week or two on the initial release, but the demand of these cards is still astronomically high. They are incredibly good and powerful cards that lots and lots and lots of people want. And so just because the profit amount is going to be less on it, because maybe you buy a $5 fetch land for $3 or $5 Shockland for $3, you're only making $2. Yeah, you're only making $2, but the rate of sale of these cards is really high. So don't avoid cards because they could be reprinted. Just have the ability to sell them and move them quickly. I would venture to say that the vast majority of our singles on our TCG player account don't last for more than a week. They move through really quick, and as long as we have cards coming in, we can have cards going out. And so it's really important for you as a store to have that kind of liquidity and movement of cards, and I think that's going to be really important. And now the last thing I want to talk about with this whole massive reprint stuff going on, I want to talk about Wizards, and just, man, I want to criticize them a little bit. We talked about players, we talked about stores, and I want to talk about the company, because what they are doing to their reprint equity it's mind-boggling to me. I just don't understand who at Wizards is in charge of communication between teams and departments. How do you have a set coming out within, I think it's like within a month period? It's got to be close to that. How do you have two things coming out basically at the same time compared to every other card game, compared to every other thing in the TCG world? How do you have two things coming out that are both highlighting the same card to buy? Buy this because of Shocklands and buy this because of Shocklands. How do you have that coming out at the same time? And the same thing with Wilds of Eldraine and Commander Masters. It makes no sense to me. I have no problem with this if they're staggered a year out. If a year ago you had Ravnica remastered instead of Dominaria remastered, right? And you had Shocklands come out then. And then now you have Shocklands come out in a box topper form. I think that makes a heck of a lot more sense than in the same month. And it just goes to show the company, the communication within the company is struggling, man. We're seeing this a lot. We're seeing it a lot. And I think that is going to be the biggest deterrent on these sets' successes. And frankly, it's going to be Ravnica Remastered that struggles the most because the price point, while they are doing this, while they are messing up and ruining the reprint equity of their own product, while they are doing that, they are also increasing the cost for everybody. They're increasing the play booster. I am a fan of the play booster box. Even though it's more expensive, I am a fan of it. But while they are doing this, they are raising the price for the consumer. And then they're also increasing prices for things like the master set, the remastered sets. they're not increasing it from Dominaria, but it's an increased price point that has already been rejected by the market. If you look at Dominaria Remastered, I got Dominaria Remastered boxes for $167 on Amazon last week, which is like $50 less than my distribution costs, or more, I think. I don't know. So it just doesn't make any sense for them to, they're just releasing too much at the same time. They're releasing the same thing at the same time too often. It just doesn't make any sense. And man, they're missing the mark on that, because these things could be so successful if they just gave a little bit more time. So those are my thoughts on the Shocklands stuff. I'm sure it's nothing too shocking, but I'm sure it's not too crazy. I'm very curious what you agree with or disagree with in the comment section. I will try to get pre-orders up for Ravnica Remastered, as well as the Murders at Karlov Manor stuff, if anybody's interested in that. You guys have yourself a fantastic day. Those pre-orders would be up at gamegrove.gg if I do get them up in time. But have yourself a fantastic day. Be kind to the people around you, and let me know what you think in the comment section below.